The impeachment investigation into Donald Trump is so disastrous for Trump that Republicans who are loyalists to him are having a difficult time figuring out how to defend him. Now, if you can recall, in the beginning, they would argue and just parrot what Trump says, that there's no quid pro quo, that there was no quid pro quo between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. But now things are changing because Gordon Sondland, the ambassador to the European Union, has testified and made it abundantly clear that there absolutely was a quid pro quo. And so let me give you the details on how Republicans are responding. When the claims first surfaced in a whistleblower complaint, remember, Republicans said that if true, they might be forced to consider impeachment. But that's off now, okay? It's gone from there is no quid pro quo to there's a quid pro quo, but not a pro, to even if there was a quid pro quo, it's not that bad. This is just how things are done. You can say it's bad, but it's not impeachable.
That sounds like a tongue twister, like how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a wood quid pro quo quod prud?
Yeah, and
that's good.
That was, I mean, it wasn't an easy graphic to read, but that's not a statement. That's not a statement from a journalist. That's a statement from a top GOP aide who spoke to the Washington Examiner on condition of anonymity. But let me give you some statements from actual lawmakers that it kind of displays or demonstrates this, right? So Representative Mike Conway says, asking people to do something in order to get the foreign aid, that's a relatively common occurrence with all of our foreign aid. You could say all of our foreign aid is quid pro quo.
Well, that's I love it when this is like a great thing about the Republican era in this like the Trump era basically is that they say the thing that they're not supposed to say out loud, they just say it out loud. And yes, it is true that the United States uses foreign aid as a sort of weapon to further its empire and all that stuff. It's not.
So, but you used. So first of all, I agree with you that it's problematic when they do that to benefit the empire, right? But they do it to benefit the empire. In this case with Trump, it's for his own personal political gain.
Obviously, but I'm saying like that he just said it like, well, you could argue that all of our foreign aid is like comes with strings attached, and like yes. You could argue, and you should.
And all those weapons that are being used against us, we invested in a few years ago. I mean, we could talk about that too.
Yeah,
totally. And throughout the impeachment hearings, you actually do hear that come up, and they're very candid about that, about how it was very important for that military aid to get to Ukraine, not because the United States actually cares about the well-being of Ukraine, but because the United States wants to mitigate the power and influence of Russia.
Right.
And they're clear and honest about that. They're worried about how this affects US foreign policy, not how it affects Ukrainian policy.
Right. Well, I think that's also just, I mean, when you think about when in the early 80s, Reagan era foreign policy, and I mean, that was how it was interpreted then. And then it really took the modern day Democratic Party, the establishment Democratic Party, to be like, no, we're about stabilizing the world and democratizing the world, which was all code for, we're not as brutal as they are, but we're still pretty brutal, we just don't advertise it.
Liberal interventionism.
That's the proper term.
Yeah.
So then you have Representative Tom Cole, again, another Republican saying of the quid pro quo, which is very clear now, it doesn't matter much anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
And then David Drucker from the Washington Examiner writes, a House Republican estimated that even in the presence of a clear and unmistakable smoking gun, which we did get today, by the way, implicating Trump in a quid pro quo, there are maybe 10 GOP congressmen that would consider impeachment. Now, you could take that in two different ways. The way that I take it is, this is awesome. I mean, that's all you really need in the Senate, right? But I mean, actually, I don't know if they're probably talking about the House of Representatives. So in that case, it doesn't matter. God, it's so devastating how much they stand by Trump and how much they're willing to defend his behavior in this case.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to imagine the counterfactual of like this happening to a Democrat. Like say the Democrats had nominated some cartoonish goon, like, I don't know, whatever.
What's the big billionaire in Texas?
Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban, that was the guy.
And like something like this was going on, like how quickly would the Democratic Party like abandon him?
Oh, immediately. Are you kidding
me?
Like
at the first sign of trouble? Yeah.
I mean, look what Nancy Pelosi was very close with Katie Hill. And as soon as there was a little bit of what Nancy Pelosi referred to as a distraction,
wow, she
pressured her to resign. So it's just, you're right. Democrats are spineless and they cower when it comes to any type of bullying from the opposite party.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.